All right, let's dive into a world of Gothic mystery and philosophical questions, shall we?
Sounds intriguing.
Today we're going deep into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh, classic.
We're using excerpts straight from the original text.
So in this deep dive, we're going to uncover what makes Frankenstein such a powerful and enduring story.
A story that might just convince you to pick up the book yourself.
Exactly. And guess what? It doesn't actually start with the monster.
It doesn't.
Nope. Instead, we meet Robert Walton.
Robert Walton.
Yeah, he's an explorer heading into the Arctic. And we learn about him through letters he writes to his sister.
Interesting. So these letters are like his personal journal.
Kinda. They reveal his ambition to discover the unknown, even if it means risking his own life and the lives of his crew.
Sounds a bit like a certain scientist we'll meet later. Definitely foreshadowing there.
Huh.
But there's more to these letters. He always writes about feeling lonely.
Lonely.
Yeah, like he's yearning for someone, an intellectual equal to share the journey with.
I can see that, being out there in the vast wilderness.
Exactly. And guess what? Amidst all that ice and snow, he stumbles upon a stranger, near death and stranded.
No way.
Yeah, and that, my friend, is where we meet Victor Frankenstein, our troubled protagonist.
Okay, so Victor's story begins.
As he's recovering on Walton's ship, he decides to share his tale, a tale that starts way back in his childhood. Imagine young Victor,
Okay.
fascinated by the mysteries of natural philosophy. He's poring over old books about alchemy, and he sees the raw power of nature firsthand when lightning strikes a tree.
Wow.
I know, right? These early experiences really shape his obsession with pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. He becomes convinced he can unlock the secrets of life and death.
That's a tall order.
You can say that again. And so he heads to the University of Ingolstadt.
A renowned center for scientific learning, right?
Exactly. And he's not just any student. This guy's brilliant. He quickly surpasses his professors in knowledge and ambition.
Sounds like a real go-getter.
But all this pursuit of knowledge, it starts to isolate him from his family and friends.
Ah, I see. So it's like his ambition is a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And it becomes an all-consuming force, pushing him towards this breakthrough that will change his life forever. And not necessarily for the better.
Oh, what happens?
He discovers the principle of life. And in this moment of, godlike hubris,
Hold on.
he decides to create a human being.
Whoa, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. Victor describes the whole process with such detail. The gathering of body parts, the sleepless nights in the lab. It's fascinating and kind of unsettling.
I bet.
And when he finally brings his creation to life,
Yeah.
there's this clash of exhilaration and absolute horror. He's immediately repulsed by the creature's appearance.
It's like the reality of his ambition has come back to bite him.
Exactly. And you know what he does? He runs. He just abandons his creation.
Yeah.
Tries to escape the responsibility of what he's done.
Oh, man. That's heavy.
It is. This moment is pivotal. It sets off a chain of events with terrible consequences for both Victor and his creation.
Makes sense.
But before we go there, let's shift our focus to the creature's experience.
Okay.
Imagine being born into this world, totally alone.
Alone.
Yeah, with zero knowledge of who you are or where you came from.
That's hard to imagine.
Right, but that's what the creature goes through. He has to figure out everything from scratch.
Yeah.
How to use his senses, how to find food, how to just exist in the world.
Wow. Talk about being thrown into the deep end.
And through it all, he's driven by this need to survive and this deep longing for connection. He watches humans from afar, learning their language, their emotions, their ways.
Fascinating.
And then he finds a glimmer of hope. He comes across the DeLacy family. They're kind, gentle people living in a secluded cottage.
Okay. And he sees them as a chance for acceptance.
Exactly. He's drawn to their compassion and warmth. And he dedicates himself to learning from them, teaching himself to read and understand their conversations.
Wow, he's really putting in the effort.
He is. He even develops this deep empathy for them, seeing himself reflected in their humanity. And finally, he decides to reveal himself to them.
He does.
He thinks they'll see past his appearance and accept him for the gentle being he believes he is.
That's such a vulnerable moment.
It is, and it doesn't go well.
It doesn't.
Nope. His hopes are completely shattered. They're terrified of him and reject him outright.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. And this rejection changes everything. Not just for the creature, but for the whole story. It's like this switch flips inside him.
A switch.
Yeah, all that longing for acceptance turns into bitterness and rage.
I can see that happening after such a painful experience.
And who does he blame for his misery? Victor, his creator. The one who brought him into this world and then abandoned him.
Yeah.
So now we have a creature, fueled by rejection and revenge, seeking out his creator. And Victor, burdened by guilt and fear, trying to bury the truth of what he's done.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
It is.
So what happens next? Guess we'll have to wait for part 2.
Exactly. Buckle up.
It's funny, actually, as we get further into the story, you start to see how Shelley uses Walton's letters to kind of mirror Victor's journey.
Yeah.
They're both driven by this intense desire for knowledge.
All right, pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, even if it means facing some serious consequences.
Absolutely. Like she's holding a mirror up to Victor's ambition through Walton. And it's like, could this be you? Could this be the price of unchecked ambition?
That's a scary thought.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the creature for a second.
Okay.
Remember when he was just experiencing the world for the first time?
Yeah.
It's actually kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He's thrust into the world with no guidance.
No one to teach him.
No one to teach him.
Start from raw.
Right? And yet he's still able to learn and empathize.
It's pretty remarkable.
His observations of the DeLacy family are super interesting.
Yeah.
He sees their kindness, their gentleness,
And their goodness.
and he desperately wants that connection.
He wants to be a part of that.
And he teaches himself to read.
Wow.
He immerses himself in their conversations.
He's really trying to fit in.
He really is, and he develops this moral compass.
Oh, wow.
And it all leads up to that moment when he reveals himself to the family.
Yeah. Hoping for that acceptance.
Yeah, and I think it's a moment of such naive hope.
I think so, too.
And as you can probably guess, it backfires.
They don't take it so well.
They don't.
Oh, no.
Their fear and rejection just shatter his belief in humanity.
Wow, it's so sad.
I know. And it's this major turning point in the story that fuels his rage and bitterness.
Wow. It's like Shelley saying that we're all part of creating the monster, that our fear and prejudice contribute to his turn toward violence.
It makes you think, like, what if the DeLacy family had shown compassion?
Right. What if they had just tried to understand him?
That's the real tragedy of it all.
He had so much potential for good.
Exactly. And it's all twisted by those he seeks acceptance from.
And then we have that confrontation with Victor.
Yeah.
The demand for a companion.
It's a desperate plea.
He just wants someone who understands him.
Someone who won't judge him for his appearance.
It's a big ask.
It makes you wonder, though, what if Victor had said yes?
Would it have solved anything or just made things worse?
It's a question that haunts Victor, too.
You can see it in his thoughts.
The fear of creating another monster.
And the guilt.
The guilt of abandoning his first one.
It's a tough spot.
But he eventually agrees.
He does.
He does, but on one condition.
What's that?
They both have to leave Europe.
Exile.
Exile.
Yeah.
Far away from civilization.
It's a last-ditch effort to contain the chaos.
It really is. And during all of this, Victor's planning his wedding
His wedding.
to Elizabeth.
Oh, right, his cousin.
Yes. And there's this stark contrast between the hope for a normal life,
And this looming threat.
the shadow of his creation.
It's like he's trying to outrun his past.
He is. But as the wedding night gets closer, he's consumed by dread. He's convinced the creature will seek revenge.
Oh, man, that's not good.
And of course, his fears become reality.
The creature attacks.
He murders Elizabeth, driven by jealousy and rage.
Oh, wow. That's brutal.
Victor is left utterly devastated
Understandably.
and consumed by a need for revenge.
So this sets up the chase?
Yes, across those vast landscapes.
Victor hunting down the creature.
But the creature is always one step ahead.
It's a cat and mouse game.
A tragic one.
This chase, it takes them to the ends of the earth.
I know, it's crazy.
Victor driven by his need for revenge.
And the creature always just out of reach.
It just shows how smart the creature is.
Right.
He's not just some mindless monster.
No.
He's using strategy. He's manipulating Victor to make him suffer.
It's like this twisted chess match.
With the highest stakes imaginable.
Exactly. And the whole time, Victor's just falling apart.
Yeah, physically and emotional.
He's totally consumed by this pursuit.
He's neglecting his own well-being.
He's becoming more and more like the creature, consumed by darkness and rage.
It's a far cry from the Victor we saw at the beginning of the story.
It really is, and it's a tragic downfall.
It shows that ambition without responsibility can have terrible consequences.
It really does.
Yeah.
But what about the creature?
What happens to him after Victor dies?
Yeah,
Well, he shows up on Walton's ship.
he does.
Yeah. And he's different this time.
Different how?
He's not angry anymore. He's full of remorse.
He sees what he's done.
He even expresses sorrow for Victor's death.
Wow.
There's this glimmer of humanity there.
Yep.
A recognition of their shared tragedy.
That's powerful.
It is. And then he decides to end his own life.
What?
Yeah, he's gonna build a funeral pyre and disappear.
He's going to erase himself from the world.
Exactly, to protect humanity from any more harm.
It's a sad ending, but there's also a sense of peace in it.
I agree, it's like he finally understands the weight of his actions.
And chooses to atone for them.
It leaves you with a lot to think about.
It does. Frankenstein is a story that stays with you.
It makes you question good and evil.
Our responsibility for our actions.
And what it truly means to be human.
Exactly. It's amazing that a story written centuries ago is still so relevant today.
It really shows the power of literature.
It makes us think about ourselves, our fears, our capacity for creation and destruction.
It's a must-read.
If you haven't already picked up Frankenstein, I highly recommend it.
You won't regret it.
And join us next time for another deep dive into a new topic.
Until then, keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep those pages turning.